Great. Well, we're 1 minute past, so you want to go ahead and get started, Jonathan? So once again, as Jonathan mentioned, we greatly appreciate everyone joining us today. We're kicking off the summit with a great topic, which is going to be VIVA Learning, and we have Tony who's going to be delivering this today. And Tony is actually a returning speaker. He actually did VIVA Connection on the last team summit, and we heard such great feedback. We had to ask him to come back again and kind of expand VIVA onto VIVA Learning. So thanks again. And I think we're going to open it up with a quick poll, Jonathan, right? Get everyone involved before we kind of turn everything over to Tony. So here's a fun little poll question in the window is how familiar are you with VIVA Learning? So we put some fun little options on there if you're not familiar with it, or if you are, that's great to know too. Just wanted to get a poll of who's even aware of what VIVA is.
I'm aware of it as a floor wax or dessert topping.
Great, we got some votes coming in. Thanks.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Patrick.
Need not, Patrick. We'll get you right where you need to go by in the next hour and a bit. So hang tight.
Okay. Looks like we've got pretty much half responded. So thanks again. I appreciate it. Looks like most people are familiar with it. We do have a couple of people on the line who know nothing about it. So this is going to be a great session for you because we will recap what VIVA is from a high level perspective before we dive into learning. So one more reminder too, at the end of the session, Jonathan and I will be posting a quick survey. Would love your feedback on how you thought the session went, any areas that we can improve on, and also if there's anything that the Microsoft team can help assist you with during your VIVA journey. So if you have a couple of minutes at the end of the session, would love your feedback. The survey will be open for 48 hours. And if you do provide feedback, we will send you a Sugar Wish coupon just to show our appreciation for one, showing up for the summit, but also giving that feedback. And if you attend more than one session this week and fill out more than one survey, you'll be entered into a raffle that we will be giving away. You'll have a choice of either Surface headphones or Bose sunglasses. So great opportunity to kind of put your name in that raffle if you're attending more than one session. So with that, Jonathan, anything else that maybe I missed? Or are we good to go?
Nope. We are ready to roll. Let's do it.
All right, Tony, take it away.
Sounds good. And just to make sure, Sarah, you can see my screen, correct? And hear me all right?
Yes, sounds great. And also, if you have any questions, put them in the chat.
Yes, please do. And then hopefully we can address them at the end if we're not able to as well. Otherwise, we can follow up after as well. All right, so yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining. This is going to be our VIVA Learning topic. This is a very popular topic within VIVA as well too, as more and more information kind of comes out from VIVA Learning. And so I'm glad that this is definitely one that we're going to be able to go through today. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with VIVA as a whole, not just VIVA Learning, it's really important to kind of understand these concepts of what our engineering team is trying to tackle here. And so what we're trying to tackle here is to create a new employee experience platform, or what they call EXP, especially when we're talking about the recent pandemic and a lot of people working from home. There's been a lot of adjustments to IT to make sure that we are getting our employees more engaged with employee resources and being able to have them have that approach of them being more within the organization and not just like one-off employees. And so making sure that we have proper communications, company resources, insights, knowledge, communities, having some type of well-being and growth and development at the fingertips of each of your employees is something that we're really trying to tackle here with Microsoft Viva. And we find all of these as very valuable resources to our each of our different employees that we have. So how are we tackling this? So as of right now, and we are adding to this eventually, we have 4 pillars of what Microsoft Viva is. So we kind of touched on this within the last summit, but we did go over Insights as a whole. Microsoft Viva Insights is really a platform that has been readjusted from My Analytics to give your employees a good insight as far as how they're being productive, how many meetings they have, can they book focus time, making sure that they are at a well-being throughout their entire workday, and being able to adjust their schedules depending on um, how busy they are during the day. And to even go on top of that, there are some other additional licensing that you can have within Viva Insights from the manager and administrative level to give them even more information about how their users are being productive throughout the day, and how administrators and managers can help them be more productive during the day as well too. We also kind of touched on topics a little bit as well. Topics is really a curated way of um, adding some additional metadata to different tooling and different words and different projects that you may have ongoing, just to make it a little bit easier for you to search upon specific topics that you have within your environment, making it a little bit easier for them. Last summit, we went over Viva Connections really heavily. Viva Connections is really designed around an intranet portal page designed directly within Microsoft Teams, so that you can have any of your company communications and all that stuff directly within Teams, so that end users aren't going back and forth from a browser to get to SharePoint. They're basically embedded within Teams directly for them. And now the one that we're going to talk about today is, of course, Viva Learning, a platform that is going to help skill and grow your employees by basically pulling all of your learning content together into Microsoft Teams, so that you can self-curate them yourself. So digging into Viva Learning. So there were some specific stats that our engineering team were kind of looking at when they were looking at designing something to kind of rebuild upon how we are surfacing training to our end users. So just a few things on here. So 1% of a typical work week, employees focus on formal learning. Of course, that's going to be a huge problem, especially when we're talking about there's a lot of digital transformation ongoing right now, and being able to skill our employees is going to be extremely vital, especially with all of these new features, functionality, M365, and so on, is going to be something that we're going to have to filter to our end users in an easy location, because we're not having that formal learning anymore. And with that, I also thought was a very interesting stat is 80% of workforce learning is going to be social. And especially with a lot of people working from home, that social aspect of learning is going to be really important. If you're able to learn together as employees, you will learn a lot more. And then for our last stat, 79% of CEOs worldwide are concerned that a lack of essential skills in their workforce is a barrier to future growth. So again, even CEOs within the community are concerned and want to have our end users learn, grow, and have that training available to them wherever they are. So what is Viva Learning? So one thing that I just want to make sure that we're understanding is that Viva Learning, and this is a very common ask of us, is that Viva Learning really isn't an LMS, a learning management system. So what Viva Learning is it creates a central hub for learning in teams, where people can share, assign, and learn from content libraries. And content libraries can be LinkedIn Learning, MS Learn, any of your company's own content, third-party providers. We'll go over all of that here in just a little bit. But really, it's to curate all of those different systems that you have with all of your different training, and empower your users to have all that training in a learning system where they're working day in, day out, which is going to be Microsoft Teams. So really kind of the target here is to make learning just a natural part of the day. So what we typically see as a problem when we're talking about all of our learning content is that we're scattering all of our learning content into multiple different avenues, which makes it really easy for us to share all that content with the end users, be able to collaborate on that content as well. And so what's great about this, and you can see here in the screenshot, again, I'm going to demo all this as we kind of go along, is you're going to be able to share all of the different learning content that you may have, whether we're talking about mobile or the desktop view. You can search, add it to a chat message, making it very easy for you to share all of your content. All of the content, again, can be curated for each of your individual users. Your individual users can actually prioritize different types of learning as well too. Like if they want to learn more about accessibility, all that can be organized for them within the VIVA Learning application. And then also with some additional licensing, and again, we'll go over all of the licensing and all the different features that come with the additional licensing if required, to drive results, be able to track your different users of how far along they are with the training, to make sure that our end users and our managers are understanding what they're actually learning, where they are with the training, to make sure that they are actually taking that training for them. And then also skilling and growth. So again, we're really trying to make learning a natural part of the day, not necessarily just like part of the job, right? And so having it within Viva or having it within Teams is definitely going to help with making it easily accessible and discoverable within Microsoft Teams. And again, being able to drive results by being able to track, being able to bookmark, and being able to know where that training is at all times directly within Microsoft Teams, making it very easily accessible to each of your different employees. Now, I'm going to go over just some demo slides here, just so that you can have a quick preview of what VIVA Learning will actually look like once we have this deployed. So as you can see, it's really just an app that you can have on the side rail for VIVA Learning. You can see that this is a user's My Learning and all of the different training that they have within Viva. And you can actually see here, I know this is kind of fast, but you can see here all of the different content sources as well too. So it's not necessarily just LinkedIn Learning that you can see here, but we also do have some other content sources like docs.microsoft.com, Pluralsight. If you have that, a lot of different learning management systems can also be connected within here. Now, if we click on one of these items, so again, we clicked on a LinkedIn Learning one, you can see here that this is the training. You can see what it's about. You can bookmark it, you can assign it, you can like it, you can do all of this different stuff just directly within here. And then if you do start to take the training, you're going to notice that I'm taking this training directly out of Teams. I'm not going into LinkedIn Learning. I'm not going to other applications. I'm basically within Teams, making it easy. I'm to be able to view this documentation and go through the training directly from Teams. Now, let's just say that I really like the training. Now what I can do is I can easily share this with anybody else within my chat. You can see VIVA Learning, check this out, I highly recommend it. And then this user can also go to that training and fill it, and you can collaborate, you can message on it, do all that stuff directly from within Teams. And then another really cool aspect about it is that VIVA Learning isn't necessarily just an app that you have on your side rail. It's also something that you as managers or project managers can actually add a tab directly within a Teams as well too. So you can see here that somebody added VIVA Learning, named it SOAR Learning, added in these different training sessions so that everybody within the Relic Cloud team can see all these different trainings, collaborate on it. And then you can also assign this. You can see that we're assigning it to this user. And then once you assign it, you can click on Manage, click on Check Status, and then you can actually see who has out of all the people that you have assigned this to, you can see who has actually completed it, who's in progress, who has not started. Again, a little bit of the elevated permissions that we're talking about here. Again, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but you can kind of see the power of what VIVA Learning can do. And also all of this is available directly within the Teams mobile application as well. So what's really awesome about this is, let's just say that we're talking in a conversation in a Teams chat, and somebody asks, hey, do you know where that tower training safety is? You can easily click on the apps within the mobile app. You can see learning. You can type in the search of tower safety, click on that, add it directly to the conversation, and then anybody that's within this conversation on a mobile view can also see that training for each of them as well. So how do we set this up? So there's a few things that we're going to talk about here. Not all of them are required, but definitely some things just to kind of consider, especially if we're going to look at doing this more like the project avenue. So step one is we do have a role assignment for the knowledge called a knowledge administrator. You can do all of that we're going to talk about here as a global admin, but normally if we're talking, if we really want to have a specific user that's going to be in charge of Viva Learning and having all of the content surfaced to them and make sure that they can kind of control it in some in some way, shape, or fashion, assigning a knowledge administrator is going to be vital to this. Now, they don't necessarily have to be completely 100% technical. They should have some technical aptitude, and they should be an existing SharePoint administrator with some credentials. And again, somebody that is well versed within your organization that knows about your education, learning, and training, and any of the employee experience that you have within your organization. So first thing you'll want to do, again, is assign a knowledge administrator to this project. The next thing is just simply enabling Viva Learning, which since launch of Viva Learning, this is going to be enabled by default within Teams. And so you can actually see that within the Teams Admin Center, Manage Apps, and you can see here the allow or block of Viva Learning. Again, if you block it, no users are going to be able to see it. If you allow it, then users can actually add that to their Microsoft Teams platform so that they can start using Viva Learning. So with that being said, we do have some content sources just right out of the box. Now, again, there are going to be some differences between premium licensing and free licensing. What I'm showing you here is the free licensing that you have within Viva Learning right now. And this is where you're going to see that. Again, I'm going to go over this. I'm going to demo all this for you so that you can actually see where this is and how to configure this. But just some important things to kind of consider here. So LinkedIn Learning is going to be a default one that you're going to be able to have. And now this isn't going to be all of the LinkedIn Learning trainings that we have out there. We have hundreds of thousands of training within LinkedIn Learning. We will provide you for free 125 and growing LinkedIn Learning training sessions. If you want to have any of the other training sessions, you will have to have a license within LinkedIn Learning in order to see the rest of those different training sessions within there, but we do give you 125 just to start. Then we also have Microsoft Learn and the Microsoft 365 trainings. So these are basically just going to be, docs.microsoft.com trainings that we have out there. All of those are free for your users. Again, I'll show you what those kind of entail here in just a little bit. And then the topic that we're really going to talk about, again, comes with the free version, is the SharePoint part of it, which does require some setup. And again, we will go over that. Now, once you get into the premium licensing, this part of the screen will start to light up with more options. And you can see on the bottom of the slide, some of the other options that you can add here is edX, Pluralsight, Coursera, Cornerstone On Demand. All of those can be added as connectors into Viva Learning and surfaceable within Viva Learning as well. Again, just to kind of go back a little bit, the purpose of Viva Learning is to make it basically a one-stop shop of all the training materials that you have within an organization right there at the fingertips of the end users within Viva Learning and Microsoft Teams. And then the easiest part, again, just like Viva Connections, is the deployment of it. So you can kind of make a decision here. Do you want to have it pinned to users' Teams applications? Do we want to just have it pinned to just some pilot users just to kind of start out with it? Or do we just want users just to allow, or you just want to basically have it available to your end users so that they can pin it themselves? So let's go ahead and just do a quick demo here of what that setup will look like. Again, it kind of makes things a little bit easier. All right, so just open that. So I am within my demo environment. And again, this demo environment only has E3 and E5 licenses. This does not have any licenses for Viva at this time. So you can see here that, again, just like the screenshot, I have LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Learn, and Microsoft 365 training on by default. And then I also have SharePoint as well. We're going to really dive into what the SharePoint setup here is in just a couple of seconds here. So again, where this is situated is it within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And now, just like basically any other application that doesn't have like its own admin portal, you can usually find them within org settings. So in order to find Viva Learning, I'll go into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, click on org settings. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see Viva Learning, bring out this flyout window. And this is where you can do any of the configuration here. Of course, as soon as it's done loading. And just to kind of reiterate, if you do get the Viva Learning premium licenses, all of those different connectors will start to show up in here, and then all the instructions of actually having those connectors set up within Viva Learning as well. As far as the role assignment, so this will also be within the M365 Admin Center. I'll click on role assignment. Let's just do a quick search for knowledge. And here's the knowledge administrator. This again is going to be the administrator that we're basically going to assign to anybody that wants to control Viva Learning. Again, we do recommend having some type of SharePoint aptitude, and I will show you the reason why we say that. But basically just assign that user, then they will have access to basically doing anything that they need to do administrative wise within Viva Learning that we're going to discuss here in just a little bit. Then of course, if we come to manage apps, Viva Learning will be within here. There it is. You can see that mine is allowed. And then of course, if we do want to set up a policy. Now, one other thing just to kind of mention here is that you can pin this to the side rail. And I know that real estate is valuable within the app bar, and what we're pinning as too much can be, again, too much. You can also just add the app as well too, so that it's easily installed so that the end user can also just add it directly from the installed apps as well too. Kind of depends on how many different apps we have within the bar. And again, like a lot of my other customers are doing, they're kind of rotating within each of these different apps that we are pinning as an administrator for them. So maybe we have Viva Learning one day, maybe we have a different app pinned to the side rail as well too. Kind of depends on your users and how you guys are actually managing those defaulted pinned applications as well. Now, once we're done with
Oh, Tony, I was going to say, we have a couple of questions in the window
Sure.
that we were wondering if we could just pick up real quick.
Absolutely.
So we have one, what is the process to connect Viva Learning with the LinkedIn licenses? So I know you're kind of reviewing how to install Viva Learning, which will have the 125 classes that are available through the standard LinkedIn licenses, but is that also where you would assign if you are an existing LinkedIn user?
So each
for the
user will have
organization?
their own sign in to LinkedIn Learning. Then that would be separate. There's really no setup from like the licensing part of that within Office 365. And I will actually show you here in just a little bit where kind of what we're talking about when you actually have to sign in. So if you click on one of the items that requires the LinkedIn Learning licensing, elevated licensing, it will ask you to log in. And normally what will happen is you'll log in with your organizational credentials. And if you have the license, then it will automatically flow for you. So you don't have to sign in again from Viva Learning as well too. But yeah, that's all separate from this.
And what's the difference between knowledge admin and knowledge manager as
So
far as roles?
yeah, so the knowledge manager, from what I understand, is more of like the SharePoint side of things, where if you're editing like taxonomies and stuff, I don't actually think that it has anything to do really with the Viva Learning aspect of it. Just the knowledge administrator is the only one that has anything to do with what we're going to talk about here of setting up Viva Learning. I know it's kind of confusing, but the knowledge manager, from my understanding, is more of like the search capabilities and stuff like that within SharePoint and OneDrive and Bing and stuff like that. Good questions.
And okay, and then we've got a lot of other questions, so we may just have to pause and see where we get towards the end. So I'll keep track of it and make sure to kind of towards the end bring them back up.
Absolutely. Yeah, and hopefully
Thanks.
we'll cover the majority of them as well too, as we kind of come through here as well. But all right. So let's dig into how we are going to do the SharePoint setup. So again, just some things just to kind of consider here and some concepts that we have before we actually do the setup. And I'm going to go through steps 1 to 1,000 of setting up the SharePoint aspect of this and what these entails and just some nuances that I found when I was actually doing the setup as well too initially. So first thing to kind of understand, so kind of back to the org settings within VIVA Learning. So when you select SharePoint, you will actually be adding in a SharePoint site collection, and I would suggest using communication site for this. Once you add this SharePoint site that you have dedicated to VIVA Learning, it will actually create a list called the VIVA Learning App Content Repository. So you don't have to do anything other than just add this SharePoint site to the VIVA Learning admin portal, and then basically it will create that list for you, and then we'll kind of talk about what we need to do next. So another important concept here is that once we have that repository, you're not basically dedicated to just that one repository or that SharePoint site of where we're actually storing these different training materials. So for an example, if we have like an HR communication site that is across the organization and they have their own training materials, they can have their own folder within their SharePoint site collection. And then they basically will provide you with the URL. And again, I will demo all of this for you. They will provide you the URL of that SharePoint site and that folder with the content. That content then will be put into that list repository that we just talked about. And then after about an hour, it will actually curate that, put that within your tenant's learning content catalog, and then that catalog then will become into VIVA Learning. So again, kind of the important aspect of this is that we're not limited to just one folder. We can have multiple different content folders, and there's a reason for that here that I'll talk about here in just a second. So once we create these different folders, we do only support these document types as of right now. So you can put a Word file in there, PowerPoint, Excel, PDF, and audio files, and then any of these different video file formats, .mov, MP4, and an AVI. All of those will be supported within VIVA Learning. And once you have uploaded those, it's basically going to be turned into its own training within VIVA Learning. You can kind of see a quick example of what that will look like. Now, why I mentioned about these different folders. So what's great about VIVA Learning is that it does honor SharePoint permissions, meaning that we do security trim. So for example, if we really want to get creative with what content is surfaced for our end users, is we can actually make it so that we have custom permissions on each of these different folders, so that if we have some training material that's really dedicated to HR, we don't necessarily need to have it for everybody within the organization. You can have your SP site folder 1 just permission to those end users. And again, what's great about this is that if a user outside of the HR permissions goes to VIVA Learning, they won't even see that content in there. So they won't be able to click on it, get an error message that they don't have permissions. We do all of the trimming from the SharePoint side so that does not surface to anybody that does not have those different permissions. So again, you can create all these different folders, have all of them with different permissions within there. So again, this is where kind of the knowledge administrator kind of comes into play. They should be the one managing those different permissions and understanding what content is going to each of those different users once we have those set up within the repository. And the one last thing before I go into the demo of the setup is if you are on a multi-geo tenant, the URL that's provided where the Learning App Content Repository list needs to be located is in the central location where your M365 subscription was originally provisioned. So you can't have this on like a satellite tenant. You have to have it on the tenant that was designated within your M365 subscription, just to make sure that we are conforming to data residency requirements from there. So just a quick tip there if you are using multi-geo environments. All right, let's go into the demo here. So just to make sure that some of this stuff I already had to have set up because sometimes it does take a little bit of time for it to provision through, especially when we are designating that SharePoint site. So while that's loading, I'll just show you. So this is my VIVA Learning. So this is my SharePoint Admin Center. I created this VIVA Learning SharePoint site. I just made it a communication site. Don't have to do anything after that, really. I just created the communication site, and then I could come back here, and then I added this communication site as my VIVA Learning SharePoint site collection. And once I do that, basically VIVA Learning does the work on the back end, and it will then provision the list that is the Learning App content repository. It does take a little bit of time. I think it took my tenant about 30 minutes to an hour, so just kind of keep that in mind. Also, there is a quick note here. You kind of have to be careful with this, especially once you're in production. So because if you do replace your current SharePoint site URL with a new one, everyone will lose access to the current SharePoint Learning app repository, and that list basically goes away. The content isn't going to be deleted because it's going to be in different document libraries. Again, I'll show you that here, but just kind of keep that in mind that if you do change this, everybody's going to lose access, and then all of the content that's within the end user's VIVA Learning will be removed until you actually create a new one. So that being said, let's go ahead and go to my VIVA Learning site, which is this. Again, just a communication site that I have built. I don't really have anything in here, as you can see. Really, no pre-work is required within here. If I go into site contents, you will see that VIVA Learning created that Learning app content repository, which is right here. So again, don't have to do anything here. So next step, we have the list, and now we need to know the content and the folders that we want to have the content added in here. And you can see that I've already added one in here, just for timing purposes. It does take a little bit of time for it to curate. So let's just say that we have an IT training site that we want to surface all of the training material from this other SharePoint site collection into our VIVA Learning. Now, you don't necessarily have to have a completely different SharePoint site as a repository. You can have it within the document library within VIVA Learning, but again, kind of depends on how you have all your learning structure. It doesn't really make too much of a difference from the VIVA Learning aspect. So I'm on my IT training site collection, again, outside of the VIVA Learning one. And so let's create a folder that has going to have all of our training material in it. IT training material. I'll go ahead and click create. I'll come into here. Okay, and let's just add PowerPoint presentation. Uploading that to this folder within this document library. And so what you're also going to want to do here while that's uploading is we're also going to want to add a description field, a single line of text for a description field, which will make it easier for that if somebody's searching for IT training material, for example. We at least have some type of metadata that will help our users surface this a little bit better. So what you can do is you can click on add column, and let me just make sure that that goes away. So if I click on add column, single line of text, let's name this again, description. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused and fall into a hole. So I'm going to name this description. I'm going to click save, but we already have a column that is named description already. So we have to choose a new name. You can either choose a new name, or what you can do, especially if we're designating this document library as basically having the training materials, you can actually just remove that. So how do you move a column? You can go into library settings. Under library settings, you'll see that we have a description for multi-line lines of text. You can click on description, open that up, and we can safely delete this one as we're going to create a different one for it. Okay, so that is now removed. If I go back into documents, add column, single line of text. All right, perfect. Now we have this extra piece of metadata within the description field. If you want to fill that out, then you can see that my VIVA Learning PowerPoint is uploaded. Now once we have all of the training materials uploaded, and again, you can, even after we're done with the next step, you can still add in and it'll continue to curate itself. Now we need to basically provide the knowledge admin with this folder. So kind of a goofy part, we're going to make this a little bit easier in the future from what I understand, is you'll click on this folder, we'll click on copy link. Now this part isn't going to matter. You can just have it on people in Contoso with this link can edit. All that we're basically doing is we're just pointing this folder to that list. So we're not like granting extra permissions or anything like that. We're basically just providing this folder to that knowledge admin so that we can have it. I'm going to head and copy that. Now let's go back to the Viva Learning site. So I'm back at the Learning App Content Repository. I can click New. Let's say IT training material. And then the folder URL. I'm just going to paste that folder URL that I had before. Click Save. Okay, that's all you got to do. So now within about an hour or two, all of the training material that is within this folder on this other site will now be surfaceable within Teams. So I already have one set up that you can see here. So if I go to Teams here and I go to my Viva Learning app, you can see here on the left. Now I can see, as soon as it loads, all of the training material that is within this site. So I have a PowerPoint presentation, I have a data sheet, I have some other training. Again, you can kind of be creative with what you guys have on here. And then you can see I have this bookmarked, I can share this, I can do really whatever I want, just like any other training material that's just like LinkedIn Learning. It's just all stuff that you guys have dedicated to whatever you guys have. Again, I can bookmark it, share it, open it, do whatever I need to do just directly within Teams. And it's all just stuff that's surfaceable within SharePoint. All right, and that wraps up the SharePoint setup part of this. Again, pretty easy, pretty fluent. You can get really creative with the different folder structures and the different paths that you have on there. So another great feature. And again, that comes with the free version of Viva Learning as well. No additional licensing with having any of that content within there. So,
Hey, Tony, we do have a quick question on
sure.
reporting. So, do we have any kind of metrics to break out users who are using the integrated knowledge resources like Pluralsight or LinkedIn? Because I do know, and even Pat mentions this, that you can see two metrics in the admin portal for active users and user activities. Are you aware of any additional reporting that we have available as of today?
For users that are like clicking on Pluralsight
Correct.
resources from I do not believe that we have anything currently for that.
Yeah.
I don't see anything on the roadmap for that either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
So Pat, we may there is a possibility where I do know that our graph team is looking at exploring reporting in depth for LinkedIn. So that might be something, not for LinkedIn, for Viva, excuse me. So that might be something that they are going to probably provide at a later point of time. So we can take that
Yep.
as an action item and just follow up with you directly on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question.
Thanks.
Anything else on there, Sarah?
There was one other question. Can you speak to analytics for the LMS piece of Viva?
The analytics piece. So remember that Viva Learning really is not an LMS, right? It is basically just an area that we're curating all of our different training materials into Microsoft Teams. It's not necessarily meant to replace a full-on learning management system that you guys may have, like Pluralsight and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't believe that we have any analytics, and that might kind of base itself off of the reporting that you were talking about earlier, Sarah.
And is there a way, I think you're gonna, I'm not positive on this, Tony, but was kind of waiting. Are you gonna discuss how you can hide the LinkedIn courses that are paid versus available for free, the 125?
So
Or do you
as
have
of
go
we're
ahead.
working on that, but as of right now, there is not a way that if you enable the LinkedIn Learning part of it to disable anything that is requiring the LinkedIn Learning for you to actually log in. But the engineering team is working on that as of right now.
Great, that's all the questions.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, absolutely. So from the administrative side, again, pretty simple. And excuse me. So what we also find kind of important is understanding how our end users should be utilizing Viva Learning. So we're just going to cover a lot of the different features and functionality that we have within Viva Learning. And then after that, we're going to go into licensing, and I'm going to go into a full demo of Viva Learning from the free side of things and what you can do with it. And then we're going to cut into what you can do as an administrator if you have the premium license version of Viva Learning. So again, kind of the easy parts of Viva Learning is you can, again, pin this to the left side of the app just as a user if you'd like to. We talked about how you can pin it as an administrator as well too. This is where you can then click on Viva Learning, get to all the different content that's available to you. And so another really cool aspect of Viva Learning is that because we can set specific metadata on different items, and all of like the machine learning and the AI that kind of goes in the back end of all the training materials that you actually have, you can select different interests that you may have. So let's just say that we want to take a look at accessibility training or diversity and inclusion training. You can actually check these as your interests. And then there's another tab here that you can see here of your interests and all of the different relating training materials that has with that specific topic. Now they are adding to this list daily almost of which ones are available and how we can kind of help curate that for end users a little bit further. But definitely a great thing just to kind of make sure that our end users are doing initially when they're clicking on Viva Learning is selecting their different interests that they may have so that different training materials is selected towards them. Again, another great feature is our search and filter within the Learning app. So if you are searching for something specific, let's just say that I want to search for something for Viva. You select Viva within there. Our training will then search for that, and then you'll be able to see any of the Viva Learning material that you have within there. And that's not just within Viva Learning as well. You can actually add a different search vertical within SharePoint and Microsoft Search so that you can search for specific learning materials as well too. And you can kind of see here a screenshot of what that will look like. I want to take a look at something for accessibility. You can click on learning, and then you can see all the different learning materials that we have within Microsoft Search as well too. Okay, you can always browse within here as well. You can see any of the trending in Microsoft training materials as well, whether that be something within LinkedIn Learning or any of the other training materials that, for example, Viva as well. Now, if you have, and this kind of probably answers some questions as well too, if you have signed in to LinkedIn Learning and you have the premium subscription, it actually can add a separate tab to it as well too. So you can see more from LinkedIn Learning, and you can get to the LinkedIn Learning Hub directly from Viva Learning as well too, that you can see here. And you can also see within here the different graphics of open in LinkedIn Learning. You can go back to the LinkedIn Learning Hub from that aspect. So again, if you do have the LinkedIn Learning subscriptions, can really help with surfacing a lot more of the training materials that we have with LinkedIn Learning as well. And another thing that I really don't think a lot of people have seen before as well is that we actually have added an additional tab on the bottom. So if I'm in a Teams chat or chatting with somebody and we want to take a look if we do have any Viva Learning available, you can actually click on that little icon for Viva Learning. You can type in, and then that will bring up this little window, and you can start typing in, data storytelling. And then that will actually surface anything that has data storytelling within it that you can see here. You can see some LinkedIn Learning, anything from Microsoft as well too. And then you can actually share that directly with a user directly within a Teams chat as well. We kind of touched on this a little bit. So let's just say that I'm in a Teams channel and I want to add a VIVA Learning tab to that Teams channel. So what you can do is within the Teams channel, click on the plus symbol. You can click on VIVA Learning, and then you can actually name it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be VIVA Learning. And then you will actually select all the different courses that you want to have within this tab. So again, this is a great way that if you do have a project team that's working on something specific and you want to have some type of learning aspect within there that's just kind of quick and easy for them, you can just add that directly as a tab within a Microsoft team. You can see that here. Then, of course, I think bookmarking has kind of been something that we've been trying to put across Office 365. It is also now available within VIVA Learning as well, where you can bookmark a specific training. And then if you go back to your My Learning section within VIVA Learning, you can see all the different bookmarked courses as well too within here. And then you can see all of them and start that training again from here in case if you have to go run off and do something else. You can always just bookmark that different training. Now, if you do have the elevated license as well, you can also have what we call the assigned to you or the recommended to you as well. So anything that, so basically you can have one upcoming due date. I will show you how to create that due date here just a little bit. Again, that will require the escalated licensing for that. But again, another great feature that if you do want to assign any tasks or anything like that, you want to make sure that they understand when that is actually going to be due, you can have that directly within VIVA Learning as well. Okay. So we talked about licensing quite a bit. So, and I'm going to show you here in just a second a demo of the differences of what you're going to see within the free version. If you guys just want to deploy this today, if you don't have the VIVA Learning Premium licensing, I'm going to show you what that's going to look like from the free version compared to what you have within the premium licensing. So you kind of get a good feel as far as what you're actually getting if you do want to do the VIVA Learning add-on. But you're going to get a lot of different features here just right out of the box. Again, probably the biggest one is the SharePoint integration. Don't need elevated licensing for that. You can see featured content, view bookmarks. Again, you're going to get the desktop and the mobile version of VIVA Learning. Now, the ones that are really appealing, in my opinion, with getting the VIVA Learning additional licenses is the recommendations in the manage section, the integration with the third-party content providers that you may have, integration with any LMS that you may have out there, and then any administrative feature learning content campaigns that you want to have as well. And I will show you these different features. But let's go ahead and dive into just the regular out-of-the-box features that we have that does not require the elevated licensing. So again, here's my VIVA Learning page. And again, when you first come to VIVA Learning, you're actually going to get this right at the top of your different interests. So any user can come in here, select any of the different interests that they may have, and then that will actually kind of self-curate all of the different training materials for that user that's available to them. Up here, again, you can see any of your recently viewed, any of the bookmarked courses that you may have, and again, just an easy way to pin to the sidebar as well if you have not done so already. As far as the materials, so again, Contoso, this is all my SharePoint material that we kind of just discussed here just a little bit ago. Again, all of this will be security trimmed. So any content that I do not have permission to will not show up within here. So again, you can get pretty creative with the different training materials that surface to those end users. Now for the LinkedIn Learning. So let's go ahead and click on one of these. So again, this comes with the 125 free LinkedIn version settings. And what's great about this as well is that you don't have to sign in to LinkedIn Learning in order to see the 125 different training materials that we have available to you. So yeah, very easy. You don't have to have anything additional in order to see these different training materials. Now, what we've also added is that if you don't have the relevant licenses, what you also see is, let me actually bring up my other tenant here because I think I have one up. You'll see these little locks. And this will actually have the LinkedIn Learning subscription will be needed in order to actually see this. So your end users will at least know that they need to log into LinkedIn Learning to actually see these. So again, to somebody's question, me as administrator, I had the exact same question to the engineering team. As of right now, you cannot remove anything that requires the subscription. That is something that is going to come at a later date of whether you can curate the paid version of LinkedIn Learning or not. So as of right now, you cannot, but we at least tell you that you will need to log into LinkedIn Learning in order to actually view that information. Let's go ahead and click the back button. So if I come down here, so that's my LinkedIn Learning. Then we also have the Microsoft 365 training. Again, all this is free, nothing additional here. You can see all the different 365 training courses. So let's just say that I want to see Viva Connections. Click on this. And again, I can share it, bookmark, open it. You can actually see where this content is actually available as well too. Pretty simple stuff there. And then lastly, if I come to the is anything from the Microsoft Learn side of things as well. So like design and continuous integration. Let's just say I want to open this within the browser as well. You can kind of see where this is. So again, just docs.microsoft.com, just basically surfaceable. So you don't have to go to docs.microsoft.com. You can simply just go into Viva Learning in order to view that, bookmark it, share it, do whatever you need to do. Now, again, you have two tabs for the training. So you also have the My Learning as well. You will get two additional ones here in just a little bit when we're talking about the elevated licenses. But if you go to My Learning, seeing the bookmark, the recommended, the recently viewed, completed, all that stuff will be directly within each of your individual users' sites. Now, for some of the cooler aspects of Viva Learning, again, Viva Learning is not just a tab within Microsoft Teams. There's a lot more to it. You can also add it as a tab to a Microsoft team. Let's do Viva Learning. Oh, I actually see it right here. So me as a manager, I'm in my project. Let's just say project training material. Any of the courses, let's do Viva. See any of these Viva courses, I'll add them here. Can also post it to the channel about this tab. I'll click save. That'll add this new tab into here. And then anybody that is within this team can now see any of the training materials that are available to you for Viva. For example, if you want them to take a look at that, you can share it. You can do whatever you need to do. Additionally, if I come to the chat window, you can see that this now posted this project training material. So let's just say that I want to add more. Just create a new reply. I can click on Viva Learning. That'll bring this up. And now we can just in real time search for any training material, and I can just add that as well, just directly to this. Pretty cool stuff. All right, so all of that, again, you can deploy this today free. All that stuff is coming with your licensing of Office 365 as default, as long as they have Teams. So let's go into the premium licensing and what that will look like and entail. All right, so this is a completely separate tenant, just an FYI. This tenant has the premium Viva licensing, and this is basically just to show you what you will also get with this premium licensing. So again, kind of the same things. All of this LinkedIn Learning, we can have different training materials, collaboration, all of this stuff. So just because we have the Viva elevated licensing, again, does not mean that we necessarily have LinkedIn Learning and stuff like that. They still have to log in. They still have to have that additional licensing. So what you do have available to you. So if I go back to the M365 Admin Center, and again, let's go to Settings, Org Settings. Let's scroll down to Viva Learning. I'll click on this. So once we have those licenses assigned to our users, Now this is where you're going to get the extra stuff. So remember, in my other tenant that's free, we only had basically those 4 options: LinkedIn Learning, Learn, M365 Training, and SharePoint. Now with that elevated licensing, we're getting all these other ones that we can add as connectors. And we're not going to go in depth as far as how to set these up. Each of them has kind of their own nuances from what I understand, but we do have documentation that I will send off to you as well within this slide deck of setting up each of these different connectors to these different resources as well. So like Pluralsight and Saba Cloud, all of this stuff can actually be added as we have the premium Viva Learning connectors available. So that's one thing that you will get. Some other things that you will get is you'll notice that we also have this manage and admin tabs. So if I click on admin, so we can actually create some featured sets here. So if I click on featured set, we can just say the and basically what we're doing here is we are featuring this set of different learning to all of our users, and you can actually pick an end date of when this will end. So we can just have it be till the 13th, and then we can just add in our different courses. So we want everybody to learn about Viva by the 13th. Add them in. So I have Viva First Look, Essential Training, click Save. And now this will be added as a featured set for everybody that goes to Viva Learning home. So they can kind of see what that looks like, publish that. And that will now be available to each of our users as more of like an elevated learning content for them. Now for the manage part of things. So let's just say that we are a manager and we're in the communication side. And let's just say that we want to create some learning and training material, but we want to track all of our users to make sure that they actually have taken that training material. So I've already added in that Viva Learning tab. We've already taken a look at that. And so these are the 3 courses that I want this team to take. And so if I click on each of these, I can click on recommend. Basically, this is the assignment. I will add these different users. Let's add Megan. You can add multiple ones. Let's just say, please take by next month. Click on a due date. Say the 27th. Click recommend. All right, so now that is a recommended training material for my end users. So what's really cool about this is that it also adds in this recommendation tab. You can also go into Viva Learning and take a look at this as well. But if I click on manage recommendations, I can now see that I have assigned this training material to Megan. And now I can track if Megan has taken it or not. So if I click on, the back button here real quick. So if I click on this little analytics piece, I can see that neither Megan or Nestor, for example, have actually taken this training material. Otherwise, you can see that it's completed, or you can see that's in progress. So you can actually track your different users just to make sure that they are taking that training material directly from Viva Learning as well too. So again, elevated licensing for that specific feature and functionality. Oops. All right, so and that is, in a nutshell, Viva Learning, setting it up, what it kind of looks like for each of them. Now, there are some really great training materials out there that I just want to highlight as well too that can really help with understanding either just the adoption in general or setting it up as an admin. So I'm not sure if everybody has seen this. We'll just kind of quickly glance at this real quick. So if I come to the adoption guide, so we have one specifically for Microsoft Viva, and we have one specifically for Viva Learning, Viva Connections, Topics, Insights. And what's really cool about this is that we actually have some guided simulations as well. So if I click on guided simulation, you can actually get 3 different two different sections: a manager experience, and an admin experience. And it actually does a complete walkthrough of setting up Viva connections and where to, or Viva Learning, excuse me, directly from here. And it's just all step by step of how you can actually create these connectors and all that stuff too. Really great resource, a lot of great information here, whether you're just an end user, a manager, or if you're going to be an administrator as well too, as a knowledge admin for Viva Learning. Some other things that we have on here is the admin documentation. So we've done a really great job of documenting all of the different steps and all the different things and aspects of Viva Learning as well too. So if you're ready to kind of start to enable this and do whatever, or if you're looking at adding any LMS to it, we have specific documentation for adding all of these different ones. So these are the ones that we currently have. So Cornerstone, Sabra, SAP, all of this just walks through the entire process of actually creating these different connectors as well. And then there were some questions about LinkedIn Learning training courses. So we actually have this documented of all the free content that we have available directly within there.
So Tony, we
Great.
do have a question around that. So are you able to, I'm assuming, Nicholas, that you're referring to the free content, but anything from Microsoft Learn in the training modules to kind of remove certain content. So like, for example, Nicholas states like they don't use Yammer. So can they remove the Yammer materials from LinkedIn Learn then?
Great question. And as of right now, the answer is no. But they are working on making that available so that you can self-curate what material is actually surfaced. Don't have a roadmap of when that will be included, but yes, that is on the roadmap for the engineering team.
There's also questions around productivity mobile apps. So I would assume you're referring to Viva Learning on the mobile app as a mobile app.
Yes, it's basically going to be an app within Microsoft Teams is the Viva
Yes.
Learning app. Yep.
Okay. And Nicholas is correcting me, not LinkedIn Learn, but the Microsoft training and learning modules.
Yeah, all of the
I
same
think
thing.
all of the same comment. Okay.
Yep.
And then Mark did ask, did we discuss other third-party learning such as Workday? I know you kind of mentioned like Pluralsight and stuff, but could you maybe just review if you have another slide on what is available, or at least the document that lists out what we do have today?
Absolutely. Yep. So I don't have a slide specifically on there, but here are all of the different LMS systems and the content providers that we have as of right now. So you can see Edcast, Go1, Open Sesame, Skillsoft, Udemy, and then here are the other ones that we have as well. So these would be all of the different systems that you can have as source connectors.
Great. I think that's all of the questions so far. Thanks, Tony.
Absolutely. So again, we have a lot of great training material out there. I did have a licensing guide in here and all the different content sources, basically outlining all of them that we have available as of right now here within this link that we'll be sending out the slide deck out to everybody here after. Any other questions? HealthStream, Daniel, I don't think that we have that. All right.
I don't see any other questions from the group. So really appreciate, Tony, your time. Is there anything else that we want to show, or?
Nope, that is the
Okay.
content. Again, really easy app, guys, just to send out to your end users. I would recommend potentially piloting some of the SharePoint content you guys may have available to you as well. Very, very simple, easy application that can be just added to anybody's team's content as well too. But yeah, appreciate everybody's time. We'll give you some time back in your day.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And everyone, we will post the recording on the Health and Life Science blog, which Jonathan just posted. And then also we'll be dropping in the link, and you will also receive an email for the survey. Would love your feedback, honest feedback. We want to make sure that we're delivering the right kind of content that you guys are seeing. And hopefully Jonathan and I will see you in the next couple of sessions later on this week. We appreciate everyone jumping on once again.
Thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you day 2 through day 5. We'll see you then. Thanks for your time and have a great lunch.
Take care.
Everybody, bye.